actually, I could go this way. Actually, hello. I decided I'm going to change my angle so you can see my tree. Oh, that's nicer. I like that. Oh, I like that. That's a nice Christmassy feel. Hey guys, welcome. I just literally set up the YouTube a second ago, so I apologize for the delay. But yes, I just had that. Oh, and now I'm going to wipe my camera because it's got a light shining on it. Come on, camera. 1 second here. 1 second here. Let's see if I can figure out which camera. That one. There we go. All right. Oh, that looks nice. Yay, you can see my tree. Anyway, welcome, folks. I'm going to get TikTok rolling here. Welcome all. Hey, Amanda. All right. Let's get, oh, that's right. Mirror image. There we go. Boom. And there we go. See, I like this with my tree in the background. This is cute. Like I said, I had to kind of change my angle a little bit here, but I like it. It's a little more angle than I normally do. Sure, Amanda, no problem. Hey, Syndicate. Hey, TikTokers. Welcome all to the newly holiday decorated Aravosis Manor. Thank you, Mark Starr, for the gift. Hello, In Vogue. How are we doing tonight? Yeah, well, this weekend, I sort of decided to go live this weekend this weekend? When was it? It was this weekend, Saturday, I guess, when I was putting up my tree. Thank you, Anne, for the gift. I decided to put the tree up early because I was in the mood. Usually I wait till Thanksgiving or so anyway, but as I said, I was in the mood. So thank you, John S. Thank you, Elizabeth. Lots of gifts coming in. Bryce, thank you, guys. Succeed. So how's everybody doing today? Happy Monday. Thanksgiving week, big holiday week in America. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Evra, Cassandra. Also my birthday week. Not today, though. Wednesday. Very exciting, or not. So Thanksgiving has always been my birthday, more or less. But yours too, Cassandra? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's always just always celebrated on Thanksgiving. So like typically I get pumpkin pie as a birthday cake was my typical birthday cake growing up. Oh, yours is Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Oh, Richard's as well. It's always funny to see, like, because there's only so many birthdays in the year. Like, you get a group together like this, and you get multiple people that have the same birthday because there's only 365, right? Or 366, I guess, in a leap year. Thank you, Carol. Exactly. Happy 21st birthday. Thank you. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Actually, for TikTokers, you can see. So this is what I did this weekend. I put up my Christmas tree. I did a live, so folks could sort of watch the tree putting up, which was very fun. So, and my oversized ornaments, which there's 3 of them actually for TikTok and YouTube. You can't quite tell. There's 3 of them side by side. They're huge, and I got them on super sale a number of years ago. I mean, literally like $15 each. They were nothing, and they're like 3.5 feet tall. They're fabulous ornaments. Actually, you guys here, I'll show you. Oh, you see, you can't tell how big those things. That thing's literally 3.5 feet. It's a great ornament. Thank you, Russell. And I was so excited because I got the. Like I said, we went to a store after Christmas and just hugely expensive stuff I would never buy, and again, $15 for those things that are 3.5 foot long ornaments. I was like, yes. So, thank you, Gabs. Appreciate the gift. So anyway, welcome, guys. So yes, today's show is Ukraine. Not a ton of Trump news, really. Today's more of a Ukraine-focused day. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Lamb Chop. There's actually some Israel news too that just broke. It is not guaranteed yet, but there is a significant chance of Israel and Hezbollah, at least, which is the terrorist group that kind of runs Lebanon, sadly. But Israel and Hezbollah, thank you, Super Hornet, reaching a truce, a ceasefire in the next 24 hours. Israel's reportedly agreed to it. See what Hezbollah does, but that's at least good news for the for the Lebanese, at least, which is good. So anyway, but all right, guys, let's get rolling here. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. We are going to talk about the Romanian election, Raluca. I am going to talk about it. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Also, it depends. Like I said, the region. We'll mention the Ukrainian election, or I should say Romanian election, because some creepy stuff happened there. Thank you, possibly Tessa. Actually, let me just get rolling here. Why don't we just get rolling? So today is day 1006 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. The couple different things. This weekend, Saturday, November 23rd, was the anniversary of the official recognition day of the Holodomor, which is the Ukrainian commemoration of the Soviet famine that killed 3.5 to 5 million Ukrainians. We're talking, this was like 11, I did the math, 11 to 16% of the Ukrainian population killed in 2 years by the Soviets. Starvation. Thank you, Running. Thank you, Super Hornet. Thank you, Martin. So the commemoration was on Saturday, just to sort of mention that. Also, in better news, I know this is kind of a mix of news here, we are raising money to buy Christmas gifts for Ukrainian kids. Well, Christmas and New Year's. Ukraine being a former part of the Soviet Union, the Soviets, really run by the Russians, but the Soviets were a horrific dictatorship. I visited in 1984, the Soviet Union, not a happy place. Thank you, Running. Thank you, DT. And one of the things the Soviets did as part of their dictatorship, they were very anti-religion. The point with the religion thing is, I see we got a new troll here. Hey, Michael. Michael, here's what, and by the way, Misha, I should call you, not Michael, because you're clearly Russian. One of the things you've got to realize is when you try to troll, you've got to read the list the Russians gave you at the right time. Like when I'm talking about, like right now, I'm going to tell you all about raising money for kids to buy gifts for kids. And you put a comment going, you sound very sad. Is something wrong with you? It doesn't make sense because I just said, oh, we're raising money to buy Christmas gifts for kids. And Michael writes, you look very sad. Is something wrong with you? This is the thing I told you guys, how one of the ways you can tell the fake trolls are basically fake people. Fake people that are sent to come to online communities like ours and try to freak you out psychologically. Because think Putin, right? It's all psychological warfare and stuff. But they very often, because they're not American, English is not their first language. English may not even be their language at all. They may not even speak English. And they tend to write things that don't make sense because they're reading it off of a paper they got. They're given literally things to say to disrupt the conversation. And they always say it at the wrong time. So as like you can tell right now, I'm kind of excited because I'm going to talk about the kids getting gifts. We're raising gifts for kids in Ukraine. And as soon as I said that, the troll goes, you sound very sad and upset. Is something wrong with you? It's like, no, I sound very excited and happy because we're buying gifts for kids. You read the wrong talking point, Boris. Anyway, it just kind of makes me laugh when they do that because I get such a chuckle out of, the Russians are very good at stirring up trouble, but they're also very bad at the same time. Like they're trolls. As I've always said, they do not send us their best and brightest, unfortunately, in any case. So back to the story, we are raising money for Christmas gifts for kids. The Soviets really tried to put a damper on Christmas. Remember the Soviets called, what was it? Christmas was the opiate of the masses. I believe, was that Marx? I'm forgetting who said that originally. But the idea was the Soviets were a brutal dictatorship. They had to control the people. And in order to control the people, they couldn't have competing interests. And religion, it was Marx. Okay, thank you, Jazak. Thank you, Adventures. Religion was a competing, not a dictatorship, but right, religion controls people, and it controls people very strictly, and government doesn't necessarily have control of religion, so the Soviets hated it. The Soviets then basically tried to get rid of Christmas, thank you, Adventures, and they made New Year's the big holiday instead of Christmas. And they even set up, what did we say, Father Time? So instead of Santa Claus or St. Nicholas, which a lot of Europe does, thank you, Naisha, they established Father Time as the Santa figure, as the St. Nicholas figure, because he wasn't religious. Because even St. Nicholas is a saint, right? Or Father Frost. I thought it was Father Time. Father Frost? Father Frost. There you go. Father Frost, because it's not religious. So in any case, what you get today in some former Soviet countries, and actually, I would say this, not just former Soviet, but Orthodox as well, because the other issue going on with Ukraine is they're Orthodox Christian, and I am too, being Greek Orthodox. The Greeks don't, maybe it's changed now, but the Greeks don't really celebrate Christmas. It's not a big holiday for them. They don't celebrate it on December 25th, and they don't really celebrate, they do it like January 6th, and it's not a big deal. For Greeks, Greek Orthodox, Easter is the big holiday, right? The birth of Jesus. Not the birth of Jesus, I should say, the rebirth of Jesus, right? The resurrection. Christmas isn't as big a deal. In any case, that was a very long way of saying we are raising Christmas gifts and New Year's gifts for Ukrainian kids. The way we're doing it is the Dutch are partnering, the Dutch government is partnering with a nonprofit to raise money to basically buy the gifts and then send the gifts to Ukraine. So what they're doing in Holland is, I say Holland, I know everybody hates that, but I'm old. Thank you, Richard. What they're doing, and thank you, Jorge, and user 336. So what they're doing in Holland, in the Netherlands, that's right, I hate calling it the Netherlands, is they're having people go and buy gifts and then drop them off at the charity in Amsterdam. So Syndicate and his wife, Michaela, live in Amsterdam or near Amsterdam. They've already bought a bunch of gifts and dropped them off. And they are basically raising money to buy more gifts. So Syndicate set up an account, basically a page you guys have all the information on. And Syndicate, by the way, is a longtime friend, longtime community member. He's our tech guy for the Aravosis report. He set up our Discord community, a lot of different stuff. He's been just a wonderful friend through all of this. And he is raising the money to go buy the gifts himself with his wife, and then they're going to drop the gifts at the Ukrainian charity in Amsterdam. So what he set up was a website, Secret Santa for Ukraine, right? So secretsantaforukraine.com. You can go there. You can give a contribution. 100% will go for buying the gifts. Syndicate and his wife will quite literally take your contribution with the other ones they've gotten, go and buy gifts, and go and drop them off at the charity in Amsterdam. Thank you, Adventures. So, it's going there, and you also know that 100% of the money is going for this. Anyway, it's a good idea. I trust him, so I think you should too. Thank you, Shah. Thank you, Adventures. Let's get on with the news, though. So, I'm trying to think of what to start with here. Let me start with the Le Monde story. I'm sort of moving my news around a little bit here from what order I was going to do. There's a very interesting story in Le Monde today, the French paper. Le Monde is I would argue, the top newspaper in France. It's also one of the top newspapers in the world. Very famous, very serious paper that you should trust. Right. Thank you, Pedro. And the irony, of course, is remember the last time I quoted Le Monde and TikTok banned me for a week? They claimed I was giving out misinformation or hate speech or something, and literally I was translating an article from Le Monde talking about the French president. It was like, TikTok, hello. So at the risk of doing it again, we are going to tell you about a story in Le Monde. What the French paper says is that there are discussions going on. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Shah. Thank you, Pedro. There are discussions going on between the Brits and the French about sending troops to Ukraine. Now, interesting question there. Thank you, Shah, Larissa. More gifts coming in. Thank you, guys. Adventures. When you dig into the story is a little light. The story doesn't give you much detail, and it's a little weird, actually. Meaning the headline and the intro is that the French and the Brits are talking about sending troops to Ukraine. Then you get into the story and you're like, there isn't a lot of discussion about sending troops to Ukraine. What's going on? What I think is going on is probably the reporter, and Le Monde, like I said, is it's like the New York Times of France. Or the Wall Street Journal, and not the Wall Street Journal, but the New York Times. Very serious publication. If they're talking about the French and the British possibly sending troops to Ukraine, my suspicion is they got some information off the record. Off the record means officials talk to you and tell you what they're doing, but they say, you can't quote me because I'm not allowed to release this information, but we want you to know. I think that's what's going on. I think this is just my take. And again, I've worked in politics for 40 years here in Washington, D.C., mostly in D.C., a little bit in New York too, but mostly D.C. And what I think is going on is the French and the Brits are getting ready for a worst case scenario in Ukraine. That does not mean there will be a worst case scenario in Ukraine, but the smart thing to do politically and militarily, national security wise, is to prepare for the worst, right? With Trump taking over in 2 months, Trump very well could cut off all aid to Ukraine. Trump could even, by the way, because I thought about this today, thank you, Jen, not only could Trump cut off new aid to Ukraine, Trump could tell the Ukrainians, you can no longer use our weapons. He could tell them. Now, the Ukrainians may say, screw you, but Trump could say, you can no longer use our planes. You can no longer use our artillery. you can't use a single American weapon to fight against the Russians. He could say. And if he does that, Ukraine could be in a hell of a lot of trouble. My suspicion of what's going on. So you got that as one scenario of the Brits and the French going, look, in 2 months, Ukraine could be screwed, but I mean really screwed. And then the Russians just come in and start making horrific advances across the country, right? Second possibility, and this actually goes hand in hand. We know, I was reading an article about this today. The Russians are going crazy with sending their men basically to die against the Ukrainians. Now, they're sending North Koreans. There was a story today, they're sending Yemenis as well. The Houthi terrorists in Yemen also sent a number of their men to fight for the Russians, because basically Russia's, in some ways, Russia's doing so badly that they've had to rely on North Koreans, Yemenis, North Africans, Cubans, Indians, Nepalese, like a crazy mix of not the world's best military that the Russians have had to reach out to get help. So that's a good sign the Russians aren't doing well. The bad sign is, the story I read today said the Russians are basically using all these soldiers for hire and getting them killed. But what the Russians are doing is typically, and those guys who watch the show or have been following Ukraine for a while are familiar with this. Thank you, Anna. Typically, when the weather gets cold and it's wintertime, Ukraine is a cold country, right? It's starting to get to winter, starting to get below freezing at night. The military, the fighting starts to ground to a halt, or at least gets much slower, because it gets colder out, it's snowy, the ground is frozen. More importantly, you lose the leaves, right? In cold areas, the leaves fall from the trees, and all of a sudden you don't have ground cover anymore. You can't hide in the forest because the forest has no leaves. They can see you and bomb you. Typically, fighting slows down in the winter. What they're seeing, according to an article I read today, was the fighting has not slowed down. The Russians are going crazy and pushing and pushing and pushing, and they're losing an unprecedented number of men, an unprecedented number of Russians, or I should say soldiers fighting for the Russians are dying, because the Russians are trying to get as much land as possible before Trump comes over, because they're afraid that Trump will, in fact, try to enforce a ceasefire. What that means, though, is in a normal military analysis, you'd look and you'd say, okay, how much can the Russians really get this winter? Well, it's going to be cold, and we know when it's cold and freezing, and the lack of leaves, there isn't as much fighting that goes on, right? And the dog wants water because I didn't give her water. 1 second here. The regulars know that my dog gets precedence over the show. You know how that goes. There you go. So a typical military analysis of what's going to happen to Ukraine over the winter would say, well, fighting's going to slow down. It may even grind to almost a halt, because also flying drones in the winter is kind of perilous. It doesn't work as well. Troops on the ground don't work as well. You don't have the leaves. So normally a military analysis would say in the next few weeks, things are slowing down and the front line should stay the way it is for the next several months. Because Russia is throwing all their men and all the North Koreans and all the Yemenis and everybody else at the Ukrainians, because the Russians don't care if their troops die, which normal militaries care. The Russians don't. And we've seen this throughout the war, but we're seeing just crazy, thank you, Adventures. Thank you, Brandy. We are seeing just crazy numbers of deaths among the Russian troops. I think there's concern that what we thought was going to be the next few months of slowing down, so at least things would stay the way they are, could be the next few months of the Russians getting a real advantage, because the Russians don't care how many of their troops die. Now, PC Noel says is dead North Koreans a bad thing. It is not a bad thing that the Russian forces get worn down. The problem is, in the process, they may be taking over large parts of Ukraine, right? The normal military analysis would have been things slow down right now, right? So that the front line shouldn't change very much. The Russians control, 18, 19% of Ukraine, but hopefully they're not going to get much more because it's winter. Now the new analysis could be the Russians are doing something unprecedented. The Russians don't care if their troops die. They don't care if the North Koreans die. The North Koreans don't care if their troops die. So they're sending so many men up against Ukraine. And even though they're losing a ton of men, even though they're losing a ton of men, they could make some significant advances on the ground because they're willing to lose so many men. Anyway, that was a long way of saying, thank you, adventurers, that I would not be surprised if the British and the French are looking at this and saying, A, we've got Trump coming in 2 months. Who knows what he's going to do? He could cut off Ukraine entirely, tell them not to use American weapons, and then Ukraine literally can't even fight against the Russians, and the Russians take over. Second, because the Russians are throwing so many men up against Ukraine, including the North Koreans, including the Yemenis, because the Russians don't care if their own troops die the way a normal military would care, the Russians might make some serious advances this winter as well, based on that as well. I think it is possible that the Brits and the French are preparing for a worst case scenario, not that they expect the worst case, but you have to prepare for it, right? If you're defending your country, thank you, adventurers. And they're saying, if the Russians make some kind of strategic breakthrough and they start advancing across Ukraine, they either start getting a huge chunk of eastern Ukraine, and maybe they even make a run for Odessa in the south, Kyiv, the capital in the north, the Brits and the French step in and say, enough, no more, no more. Right? You are not going to take Kyiv, the capital. And in essence, the British and the French take over half of Ukraine. I mean, and the Poles join them and everybody else. They, at the very least, they go into Kyiv, they go into Odessa to try to stop the Russians from coming. But they may even, I wouldn't be surprised if they take over half the country. I mean, it would be a wild move, but to take over half the country and say, with the Ukrainian invitation, of course, but take over half the country and say that they're going to have, thank you, Cherise, thank you, Mrs. Toad, that they're going to have, come on in, you. They could have a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine as well. You know, so anyway, it's kind of a wild story. We don't have enough facts on it yet, but I feel like something's going on. And as Grumpy Old Gamer said, preparing for the worst is not always a bad thing at all. No, that was the YouTubers got to see her. She went in front of the tree, like threw her toy, and then walked over to me. Oh, there she's. Oh, she's back. Oh my God! I can't play it, not right now. No, not right now. Here for the TikTokers, where there she is. She's like throwing the toy around, and then standing and looking at me and going like, "Now, now." Anyway, so that's what's going on. That's what's going on. Just looking here. Where is JD Vance? I know I've been asking that too. So anyway, so we don't know. We don't know. I don't think the French and the Germans are sending, or the French and the Brits are sending troops yet to Ukraine. I do think they're preparing for the possibility as a last resort. So, okay, a little bit more here. What else was here? National Security Council, nothing really new here, but the National Security Council spokesperson, John Kirby, who's one of Biden's spokespeople at the White House, says today, right now, Ukrainian soldiers have the ability to use ATACMS, which are the American missiles, to defend themselves in an immediate need basis. Understandably, that's taken place in and around Kursk Oblast. So what we're trying to do is read between the lines here of what, if any, restrictions the Americans put on the Ukrainians using American weapons to fire into Ukraine. Two words here, or two phrases. The Ukrainians have the ability to use our weapons, the ATACMS in particular, to defend themselves in an immediate need basis. In other words, it sounds like that means we gave them permission right now, but it's not permission forever. And it's not permission like maybe it's not permission for other scenarios. It's not permission possibly for other regions. And it's not necessarily permission for other fighting in that region. It's immediate need, like immediately right now you need help, so we're going to let you use it. But if that need passes, you're not going to be able to use them. So a little bit of games with the Americans here. And he also adds the immediate need basis taking place in and around Kursk Oblast. So he's also saying, the White House spokesman, that it sounds like the U.S. is in fact limiting the use of its missiles inside Russia to the Kursk Oblast, which is this region of Russia that the Ukrainians are currently occupying. So just a little information on that. North Korea is expanding a key weapons production complex that assembles KN-23 short-range ballistic missiles used by Russia against Ukraine. This was in Reuters today. That's of concern because it means the North Koreans are basically expanding They're going to expand the capacity to make weapons they give to Ukraine. The question is whether, to Russia, the question is whether they are expanding the capacity to give more weapons to Russia, or whether they're expanding the capacity because they're running out of the weapons themselves. So it doesn't necessarily mean the Russians are getting more, but I think the popular interpretation is this means they're going to be producing even more weapons for the Russians, which is obviously a bad thing. What else we got here? Deep. So this was interesting. We don't quite know what this was. A DHL cargo plane. Seriously? You and you're in and out with me. You want to go out again? All right. A DHL cargo plane taking off from Leipzig, or going from Leipzig in Germany, crashed into the Vilnius airport in Lithuania today. One crew member died, 2 were injured. Thank you, Courtney. Immediate thought went to Russia because, see, I knew this. My dog is always like in and out. She's like, I want to go on the balcony. No, I want to come in. It's cold. I want to come in. The Russians, we believe, tried to blow up 2 transport planes at DHL transport planes in Europe this summer. Let me read this to you. According to CBS, U.S. and European law enforcement agencies have been working together for weeks to investigate whether incendiary devices that detonated in July at DHL logistics hubs in Germany and Britain were part of a larger operation directed by Russian military intelligence agencies or by outside individuals acting in the interests of Russia. Now, either way, it's Russia. They put bombs basically in packages that were meant to set planes on fire. I love on YouTube, you're getting the full Sasha show today. She's under the tree now. Oh my God. I mean, it's actually very funny because like she's sitting there and she's doing the full blown, like throwing the toy herself. Oh my God. It's absolutely hilarious. It's one of those where they've got the squeaky, but she throws it in the air and then picks it up again and throws it in the air. That was cute. YouTube got their little moment of her underneath the tree. That was very cute. Yeah, well, we even took a good walk today, but what do? You know, the dog's, she's still, I'll show you. See, she's still back there now. Now she's looking at me going like, I have a sense you're talking about me. You see the purple toy is the squeak that she's been playing with. Okay, we're stopping. She's stopping again now. I had to show the TikTokers. Do I think World War III will happen soon? No. As just a quick point to mention about World War III, you got to remember something. The only she is funny. How could you have World War III when a dog is playing with her toy? It is not possible. It is not possible. I'm trying to, is she? Oh no, she is kind of hiding back there now. The thing you got to remember is the only people more scared of World War III than you are the Russians. The Russians can't win World War III. The Russians know they can't win World War III. Thank you, High Tide. By World War III, I mean war with NATO. It doesn't freaking matter who else gets involved at that point if we're at war with the Russians. They would lose. Thank you, High Tide. They know they would lose. Our military is so much better than the Russian military. Also, the Russian military is now weakened significantly because of fighting in Ukraine for 3 years. But now, World War III, we would win, actually. I don't think it's no one wins, actually. We win. If it's not nuclear weapons, we win. It would be bad, right? I mean, war bad, people die. We do not want that. But we would win. If it were a nuclear war, everybody loses. So here's the problem. If it's a nuclear war and everybody loses, why would Russia want a nuclear war? They wouldn't, right? Russia doesn't want a war that would wipe Russia off the face of the map. That's stupid, and they're not stupid. Okay, so that's the first thing. If it's a conventional war, we would win a conventional war meaning a non-nuclear war, we would win. Again, it would be bad. There'd be lots of fighting and lots of death, and who wants war? I don't want war, but we would win it, and everybody knows we would. I mean, literally, all the experts will tell you we would win it. It would be bad, but we would win it. So why would Russia, A, want a nuclear war when it knows it would lose a nuclear war? Why would Russia, B, want a non-nuclear war with NATO when they know they would lose a non-nuclear war? Russia is the weaker power. Russia would lose. If you are fighting with someone and you know he can beat you, he will beat you. You will bluster. You will threaten. You will try to bluff and say, ha ha, you go to war with me, I'm going to destroy you. But you know in your head, if you go to war with him, you're fucked, right? Because you're going to lose. That's what Russia's doing. Now, war can still happen. That's a possibility, right? I mean, war can still happen. That wars happen. I mean, we know World War I was kind of a mess. I mean, in terms of how it came about. But the garbage that Russia is spewing is a sign of Russia's weakness. They are terrified of going to war. Thank you for the cat massage there, KT. They're terrified of going to war with us, but they do know that unfortunately we're a bunch of chicken shits. Trump is chicken. The Republican Party is chicken. Most of the MAGA people are chicken. Not only do they not want to defend America, they're terrified of war. Thank you, Martin, in ways that are very dangerous. I mean, you see all of Trump's top supporters, and I mean like the Elon Musks and David Sacks and all these important people, all talking about how terrified they are of war with Russia. Well, that's a really good way to have a war with Russia, in fact, because if you keep telling Russia that we are terrified of having war with Russia, oh my God, let's stop fighting in Ukraine. Let's stop fighting with Russia because we're terrified of them. You're kind of telling Russia, maybe we should push America around, right? I mean, that's the problem. So ironically, the risk of war goes up the more Trump and his supporters talk about how afraid they are of war with Russia, because Vladimir Putin is eating that up and Putin loves it. But generally speaking, Russia, we'd win. I mean, Russia's not going to beat us in a war. They're not. Thank you, adventurers. All right, a little bit more here. So I don't even want to talk about freaking Joe Rogan. He's an idiot. I'm not even just Joe Rogan is this idiot, very influential American, but he's like what is he? Some kind of world wrestling fighter or whatever the hell they call it, or UFC, or I don't even know what they call this. Some kind of a fighter guy who has a podcast. Not the brightest guy, but all the young boys like him, of course, because Joe Rogan, right? That's kind of stupid stuff. And he supported Trump. And now he's on the Elon bandwagon. Not just Elon. I was looking today. Somebody shared all the crazy people that Rogan follows, and he follows all the crazy people. I mean, Cernovich, that idiot Poole with the beanie who was being paid by the Russians. I mean, all these crazy people, right? He follows all the crazy people on the right, all the MAGA lunatics. So he decided to go off, Ben Shapiro, all of them. He decided to go off against Ukraine. And basically, fuck you, Zelensky, you're going to get us into a war, and this kind of crap. As if, like, Zelensky is somehow controlling the U.S., and we would not be supporting Ukraine if Zelensky didn't trick us into support. Right? I mean, it's like, it's so obnoxious. I mean, the Ukrainians called him out, which is good, but the point is, this MAGA movement is dangerous. Unfortunately, they're not looking after America's national interest. They're proposing things that are totally in Russia's national interest, but not America's. And as I said, they're chicken shit. They're terrified. I mean, they keep, and Rogan did it too. All the top people supporting Trump keep coming out and basically saying, Russia, I'm scared of you. Well, again, it's a really good way to start a war by telling a belligerent country like Russia that you're scared of them, because that tells them to push harder. Because they can get more from you because you're scared. And then they get more, and eventually that more could lead to war. Any case, very annoying. What was this? Let me see here. This was yeah. So part of and by the way, this is part of the bullshit with Russia also doing its childish stuff on the war front. As I told you, everything Russia does is psychological warfare. Putin was KGB. Which is like the secret spy people, very evil spy people. Everything Russia does is psychological warfare. It's meant to freak you out. And the Russians, a presenter on Russian TV. You heard a couple days ago, Russia fired this new missile in Ukraine. Again, I don't care. It's a new missile that is used to launch nuclear weapons across the world or whatever. I don't care. Russia's had ballistic missiles to fire at the U.S. and everything for like 50, 60 years. Like, I couldn't care less. I really don't. I mean, They've got a new one. Okay. Has Russia been able to blow us up for 50 years? Yes. So with this new missile, can they blow us up more? Not really, right? Does it reach a distance that the old missiles didn't reach? No. It's the same distance the old missiles went. It carries nuclear weapons. Yeah, the old missiles carried nuclear weapons. But it can carry multiple nuclear weapons. Yeah, the old weapons have carried multiple nuclear weapons since 1968. One of you guys Google that for me. Who cares about this new missile? Again, everything is psychological though, right? If you've watched the news last week, you said, oh my God, Russia fired a new missile at Ukraine. Oh my God, it was a missile that could carry nuclear weapons. Yeah, Russia's had the ability to fire a missile that could carry nuclear weapons for the last, 50, 60 years. This is not new. Actually, the Cuban Missile Crisis, right, was 1962. And Russia had the ability to fire missiles that had nuclear weapons. Like, this is not new, okay? In any case, so of course, what did the Russians do? They went on TV, because Russia's a dictatorship, so everything on TV is run by the government. And they decided to show maps of how many European capitals they could hit with their new missile and blow up and kill everybody. This is, again, the point here is just the immaturity of the mindset here. Mature countries don't do this. Responsible people don't do this, right? You don't go and do a TV show about how many European capitals can we obliterate? And literally, they showed I'm trying to remember London. What did they say for London? It was 19 minutes. Oh, 19 minutes. 19 minutes, one of their missiles could take out London. Yeah, well, let me tell you what would happen if one of those Russian missiles took out London. One of London's multiple sea-based cruise missiles or ballistic missiles on its submarines would obliterate Moscow and St. Petersburg, and they wouldn't exist anymore. That's what would happen. The Russians don't show you the rest of the video. Actually, honestly, if I were the Brits, I would almost take the Russian video and show it and add the ending and go, they missed the ending. And the ending was a little British submarine, a missile taking off, and Moscow no longer existing, and St. Petersburg no longer existing. And by the way, most of Russia's population are in those two cities, which is Russia's biggest problem, actually, is that their entire population is in two cities, which means you hit those two cities and all the Russians are gone. That's what would happen. Nobody wants that to happen. That would be bad. But that is what would happen if the Russians were to launch an attack on Britain. Britain's nuclear submarines would wipe out Russia as we know it. And honestly, that should give you some solace because, as I told you when we started the show, that's why Russia's not going to do it. Russia's not going to hit the Brits because the Brits have nuclear weapons and would respond and wipe out Russia. And the Russians know it. They cannot wipe out your nuclear weapons. They cannot wipe out France's nuclear weapons. They cannot wipe out American nuclear weapons because it's hard enough to hit them when they're in the ground. But submarines, they can't touch submarines. And that's the problem with submarines. Submarines hide and you can't find them. For all intents and purposes, you can't find them. Our submarines have got more than enough nuclear weapons where the Russians we would be able to respond. Again, this is scary. Now, what the Russians want, however, this is scary stuff to talk about, right? So what the Russians want is even talking about this is, it's a discussion about nuclear weapons and nuclear war. That's scary. Oh my God. They want us to just be scared talking about it because maybe if we get scared, we'll say, okay, it's not worth it. Just let the Russians win, right? But that's what's going on. It's all one big, crazy, obnoxious psychological game. Yeah. So anyway, a little bit more here. Ukrainian drones hit an oil depot in Western Russia, causing a blast and a fire. The drone coalition, co-headed by the UK and Latvia, that was launched in January to raise money for Ukrainian drones, has gathered $1.8 billion, or they will by the end of the year, 1.8 billion with a B, which is very good. So in other words, I'm not that concerned. I'm not that concerned. No, I'm not. The Romanians, so this was not good news. But the dog really is in a mood tonight, isn't she? Romania had their first election for now. I'm trying to double check. Was this presidential election? I was trying to see presidential versus prime minister. It's presidential, but the president in Romania is in charge of defense stuff. Romania had their first election. If nobody gets 50%, they then have a runoff of the top two people who then run against each other. A far-right pro-Putin nut job won. He came from nowhere. And honestly, a lot of people think the Russians stole the election. He had 5% support in the polls. He ended up getting 22.9% on election day. But from 5% support to the actual election being 22.9, that does not happen. He is pro-Russian, but pro-Putin. Like pro-Putin to a ridiculous. He makes the Hungarians and the Slovaks look like socialist, I don't know what, right? I mean, he is so pro-Putin, it's not even funny. The runoff will happen on, I'm trying to remember when, was it a few weeks ago? When? Oh, December 8th. December 8th is the runoff. We hope to God this guy does not win, because it's really scary. Now, mind you, incumbent governments lose a lot lately. Like this year, pretty much all the incumbents lost around the world, like 22 elections. So that's a little scary. But it is hard to believe the Russians didn't have a hand in this. Very scary stuff. Thank you, Jenna Mom. And finally, just to, again, show you what Russia is, what the Russian government is, who we're dealing with, okay, is Putin signed a law banning the adoption of Russian children by citizens of countries where gender transitioning is legal. So Putin signed a law banning adoption for anybody who comes from a country where a transgender person can get surgery and change their gender. That's it. And I mean, the immaturity of this, but this is all part of Putin's shtick. Putin, frankly, Trump is doing this stuff now too. Trump this weekend was talking about banning all transgender troops now, kicking out 15,000 transgender troops from the U.S. military. That was this weekend's news. Putin's doing it too. It's culture war stuff. The Russians have, Putin's done this for years. He's always attacked gay people, and attacked transgender people is now the new hot thing. First, it was gay people mostly, but now the hot thing for America's Republican Party and also for the Russians is to go after trans people. It's just so obnoxious, especially when you think about it. Thank you, Lorraine. I mean, you're hurting these kids, I mean, these kids need to be adopted. They don't have parents. And you're not even saying, the thing is, you're not even saying transgender people can't get them, which is weird, but you're saying you can't even adopt them if you're from a country that allows transgender people to basically exist. I mean, it's stupid, it's petty, and it punishes the kids. It punishes the kids. It's so obnoxious. But again, this is where Russia's coming from. The Russian government, at least, is where they're coming from. There is an immaturity there and a pettiness that is just very sad. Anyway, that is it for the news. We hang and we talk now. I will say that our auctions end tomorrow. I am in full-blown mode on our auctions again. For the last couple of years, we've been doing auctions to benefit Ukraine. I get really cool stuff from Ukraine. I auction it off on our Discord community, and then 50% of the winning bid I send back to Ukraine. 50% of the winning bid I keep to support my work because I do this full-time. I didn't make that pitch today. Please keep the gifts coming because this show is my job. I've been doing it full-time now for 3 years. So the auctions help both. We've got a lot of really cool stuff, this week, and a lot of cool stuff that, thank you, Lorraine, that I'm going to be putting up over the next few weeks with Christmas coming up. Anybody who's military minded might like this stuff. Probably this week's coolest item, I think, is we've got an actual Russian drone from Ukraine. And it's a drone that was brought down by Ukrainian military. We got it from the Ukrainian military. They brought it down with a fishing net, actually, which is kind of cool. Actually, I can let you see sort of up close, kind of wild. Oops. Let you guys see. Where's the? Oh, is this the side that actually somebody noticed? It's got the little USB-C port or whatever. There you go. You guys, actually, you can both see if I do it this. Can you both? There, you can both see if I do it this way. But very cool. So that is up for auction. Very cool. We've got a Russian military backpack from Ukraine. I've got actually probably the second coolest thing, I think. This is all in our Discord community. If the mods can tell people how to get over to Discord, I would appreciate it. The auctions end tomorrow, and then I'll be putting new stuff up. This is probably the second coolest item. This is a fake Lego set. It's not Lego, another company, made by the Chinese, but it gets even better. Honoring the Ukrainian military. Okay, the Chinese, who are the Russians' allies in the war, are creating toys honoring the Ukrainian military. So this Lego set honors the Bayraktar, boom, and the HIMARS. I think it's the HIMARS, yeah. The HIMARS, which is the rocket system, and the Bayraktar, which is the really cool drone made from Turkey that the Ukrainians have caused so much trouble with. So this kit, you can make both of them. It's very cool. It, as I said, is devoted to the Ukrainians. You got the Ukrainian flag, ZSU, which is the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Ukrainian. Again, ZSU. It's hilarious, though, because it's made by the Chinese, which I think is hysterical. A couple other very cool things. I've got a White House Christmas ornament. I went by the White House 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and the White House Historical Association, the official White House Historical Association, is across the street from the White House. I live in Washington. And the 2024 ornament is devoted to Jimmy Carter, who was our president back in the 1970s. They've got a really nice little sort of pamphlet about his presidency. And then the ornament, which is really cool. In this case, the ornament is like an anchor because he was in the Navy. It's got the White House, you know, the years he was there, all sorts of stuff. And what's kind of cool too is the back is totally different. So the back is also a totally different kind of thing. Very cool. I've got a whole number of different ornaments actually, but this is this year's ornament, which is very cool. So people can bid on that. I'm not going to show you everything. The other cool thing is, I mean, we've got a number of things, but I think the other cool thing is some T-shirts from Ukraine. Vlad, my Ukrainian friend, made these T-shirts, 100% cotton, Vlad says, made these T-shirts for the volunteers we have making camouflage nets. Sasha, you got to wait. She wants more water. Making camouflage nets. We've been raising money for the Ukrainian military to make camouflage nets for a couple of years now. And a lot of volunteers in Ukraine doing it. Some foreigners have helped as well. And Vlad made T-shirts for the volunteers. And it actually very cool because it's kind of a camouflage T-shirt, which is neat. And the logo says Harkovu Mir, which is Kharkiv Peace, the name of the, or Peace in Kharkiv, the name of the charity that coordinates this. It says Moskovalna Sotnya, like the Camouflage 100, the nickname they gave the volunteers, like the 100 camouflagers. And then it shows pictures of spiders weaving a web, which is very cool. So that's kind of cool. We've got a medium, an extra large, and a triple XL, I believe. Yes, a medium, an XL, and a triple XL. The winner can pick what size of those sizes they want. But this is kind of neat because Vlad did not make that many of these shirts. He only made them for the volunteers. You know, you can only get this shirt here. Thank you, Courtney. But I think it's kind of like I like T-shirts, and I also like them in foreign languages. So it's kind of fun to me that it's in Ukrainian and stuff too. Oh, you've got the green version, Martin. Nice, nice. Let me give the dog a little more water, and then we'll continue. 1 second, guys. 1 moment. All right. A little more water, you? All right. A little more water. All right. Okay. Okay. There you go. All right. All right. Dog has water. Good. All right. Anyway, yeah, the rest I'll let go. There's a lot of other cool little things. You know, there's actually a cute little keychain, Ukrainian keychain. Oops, there we go. Sort of just cute little Ukrainian keychain. Cute little Ukrainian fridge magnet, but painted in the traditional style. Nothing special, but they're cute. I mean, I've got them. I've got the the opening bid's very cheap on those. But in any case, it's cool stuff. But like I said, personally, to me, the Russian drone is pretty freaking cool. You're not gonna anybody who's into military stuff, a Russian drone from Ukraine, you're not gonna get much more interesting than that. You can bid if you're abroad, but you pay shipping. Domestic and international, you pay the shipping. So that's the only issue. So. Just be aware, you'll pay that. Although the drone isn't terribly heavy, so hopefully it's not too bad. Any case, all right, guys. Ben is asking a super chat question, and yeah, mods as well. Again, if you could just tell people where to find the Discord where they can bid, I would appreciate that. And again, for YouTube, I'll tell you right now, YouTube, you can find the description of the show. We'll show you where to go to Discord. On TikTok, go to my profile. Click the Linktree link. The very first link coming up will be Discord. If you're on a computer, you can click that link and go there. If you're on a phone, you need to push and hold the link down until it opens up a thing that says accept invite or something like that. So All right. The auctions will end at different times tomorrow. Each item ends at a different time. I sort of spaced. I guess I could do them all at once. I don't know. I thought of doing it. Maybe I should do them all at once. I don't know. I always sort of do them throughout the day because of the different time zones. So that way it kind of gives people different advantages, because I always hate to do it just, but I could always do it just ending at, 8 o'clock at night or something, I guess. Anyway, Ben, thank you for the super chat question. Could the French and British governments have deliberately leaked the story about troops going to Ukraine in an attempt to intimidate Russia and Putin? Yes. It is entirely possible that they're not sending troops, and that they want the Russians to think they are sending troops so that the Russians go, uh-oh, and maybe slow down. Now the Russians have got to worry, okay, no longer are we fighting, I don't know, 50,000 Ukrainian troops in that, or 20,000 Ukrainian troops in that area. Maybe we're going to have 10,000 French troops as well. I don't know. So yeah, that's possible. I hadn't thought of that, but sure, it's certainly possible. They're trying to play a psychological game with the Russians to slow the Russians down. Could I weigh the drone? Yeah. I'd have to. Oh, what the hell? I'll put it on my food scale. One moment, and we can see what the weight is to see how it would ship. Here, let's see grams here. All right, that's not bad. I got. All right, is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. All right, grams. Then we'll do pounds too. Okay, yeah. 780 grams. So that's 780 grams, or 1 pound, 12 ounces for anybody looking at what 780 grams. Actually, it was more than that. For anybody trying to figure out shipping, I can figure out shipping too. I can easily do a shipping estimate on my end as well, probably. Anyway. All right. Oh yeah, the Christmas donations for buying the gifts for the kids in Ukraine is secretsantaforukraine.com. secretsantaforukraine.com. All right. Anyway, all right. The HIMARS in that set fires the missiles. I don't know what that meant, James. Yeah, I could look into it some more. I don't know that I care. WC is asking about the new Russian hypersonic ICBM. It may not even be an ICBM. It may be an intermediate range ballistic missile. But I guess, what are you actually asking? We don't know a lot about it, but we know, I think it can go Mach 10 or something, or I forget, but it can go super fast. It can carry nuclear weapons. It can carry multiple nuclear weapons. Again, I don't particularly care. What Putin hopes is it goes so fast that it's hard to knock down. Intercontinental, or I should say ballistic missiles, are hard to knock down anyway. Like, even the missiles they've got that they fire the nukes on, they typically say you've got to knock them down. You've got to basically blow them up on the ground, because once they're in the sky, good luck taking them out, So I don't know that we've got the nuclear warheads. I don't know if we know what size nukes it carries. Do I think we're on the verge of war? No, we're not. We're not, because the Russians are terrified of going to war with us. Absolutely terrified, because they know they would lose. That's the thing. Now, you could still have a war by accident. That doesn't mean wars don't happen. But all the bullshit coming out of the Russians is just that. It's bullshit. Because they know they'd lose. My nose is itching. I even used I have like a little allergy spray for my nose to stop it from itching, and I used it tonight, but it's not helping. The Russians know they would lose a nuclear war. We'd all lose a nuclear war. So the Russians don't want that. They know they would literally lose a conventional war, that we'd win. So they don't want that. So, Kate Dope says, I'm 20 minutes behind. But to World War III, what if Dumpy, meaning Trump, I guess, sides with Putin and turns on Europe with Russia? What's to say he won't go further to buddy up? Trump's not going to declare war on Europe. That's not going to happen. But he could reach any kind of an agreement. He could give Ukraine. That's the problem. And you also could have Trump pull out of NATO. And Trump leaves. Now, Congress, passed a law that would make it hard for Trump to leave NATO, but that doesn't matter. Trump's the commander-in-chief. All Trump has to say is, Poland gets invaded, I don't care, I'm not coming. Doesn't matter if we're members of NATO. There's no punishment if you don't come and help. The NATO charter says each member helps to its ability or its desire. So Trump will just not come and help if he wants to. The Poles or the Scandinavians or the Baltics or anything else. And he could make that clear. And then it becomes very dangerous because Trump says publicly that he's not coming to help Europe. And then the Russians go, ooh, this is good. And again, that's how war starts. So the irony is all these people who voted for Trump because they didn't want war are more likely to get war now. So surprise, we told you so. Oh, well. If they were losing a conventional war, would they use nukes? It depends. It depends what losing means. I mean, again, this gets very complicated, but does losing a conventional war mean they invade Poland and we kick them out of Poland? I think there's not a great chance of them using nukes. Does it mean we then kick them out of Poland and then we invade Russia and we take part of Russian territory and annex it to Poland? Now you're looking at a greater chance of using nuclear weapons, right? So that's that's one of the issues. There's a wild card issue of, some analysts worry that if there were a conventional war with Russia, Russia not bluffing us, but Russia knowing how scared we are of everything, that Russia could start a conventional war and immediately nuke Western Europe and just nuke Paris, nuke Germany, nuke whatever, and then stop and say, okay, we're done. We're done. You don't want any more nuclear weapons. Stop now. And by the way, we just grabbed half of Poland, or we just grabbed half of, Latvia or Lithuania, whatever. And then the Russians go, okay. And then does Europe or Trump have the backbone to say, no, you just nuked us, we're going to nuke you, right? That gets weird. That gets weirder. But Putin can do that anyway, But that's exactly, Stephen, what the analysis was. This was from an Estonian, I think, saying that his fear was that Putin would immediately nuke a bunch of Europe and then say, peace talks, I want peace talks. And then you get the European peace movement or the people or the Trumpers, the MAGA people who go, oh, I know he nuked us, but is it really worth it? Or I know he nuked you in your case, but is it really worth having a nuclear war, nuking him back? What the hell was that? Hey, stop it. What the hell was that? She scared me on that one. That was the bark like she does at a person. That was like, jeez. My dog is being very chatty tonight. Very chatty tonight. I didn't see about the Bondi wants to take guns without due process. I missed that, German. What's that about? I know who Pam Bondi is. Trump's pick for Attorney General. I'd be surprised she wants to take guns. Dalton says, what do you think will be discussed at NATO's emergency meeting tomorrow? I didn't hear about it. I'm a little surprised. I don't know. I don't know about it. I'm trying to think. Other than Russia, now I'm trying to think what's going on in the world. Well, possible peace with the Israelis. Is that a NATO thing? Between the Israelis and Hezbollah? The Russians possibly trying to blow up a transport plane in Lithuania. If they've got evidence suggesting the Russians did it, that would be an emergency meeting of NATO. Because again, it's an act of freaking war if the Russians did it. Ukraine? Oh, on the new missile? Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure what that gets you. I'm not sure what the point is of holding the meeting. Maybe it's just showing the Russians look, NATO got together to have the meeting to talk about the new missile. Hamas does not appear to be part of the ceasefire. No, this is Hezbollah. So the Lebanese. Should you be worried? No. You're pretty sure I'm part of the problem? Yeah, well, I literally live with my dog in Washington, D.C., so I am not responsible for the invasion of Ukraine, but nice try. You're pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you're a troll. What else we got? What else? Oh yeah, all the train sabotage in France that they did during the Olympics, that was the Russians. Yeah. No, they've been the Russians sort of routinely commit acts of war against us. But as I've said, they do things that are just shy of war so that we don't respond, right? Like blowing up the trains in France to screw up the Olympics. You know, what was France going to do? Declare war on Russia? The Russians know they're not going to declare war, so they get away with it. Trying to blow up several DHL planes, you know, leaving Europe and going to America, that the Russians tried to do a couple months ago. That's an act of war. But are we going to go to war with Russia? Again, they know each step of the way we're not going to go to war with Russia, you know? Did you see the post? Eva saying, did you see the post by Sky News that Belarus has been shooting down Russian drones as they're entering Belarusian airspace? Oh, that's interesting. I did not see that. Well, I'm vaguely wondering if there wasn't a story last week on this. This is funny. Thank you, Bjorn. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's kind of obnoxious, actually. I mean, if Belarus is shooting them down, that's very interesting. I don't know what that's about. Thank you, Maddie. I don't know what that's about, unless the Belarusians aren't sure whose drones they are, and they think the Ukrainians or somebody else might be invading, right? So to be safe, they're just shooting everything down. I don't know. That's very interesting. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Bjorn. Keep the gifts coming, guys. Sasha needs a new pair of shoes. Hello. There you are again. Oh, my God. You're really not going to let me work tonight, are you? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Somebody is on a... I mean, I took her for a good walk today, too. And she's still on a crazy mission. That's interesting about them shooting it down, though. That is interesting. Did the NATO head go to Trump yesterday? I did not hear, although wouldn't be a bad thing for him to meet with Trump. He's going to have to deal with him, you know? So, I mean, any kind of meetings with Trump are a good idea at this point by anybody, any foreign power, whether it's NATO or otherwise, you know? So, James says, the Belarusian dictator is worried that the drones will land in Belarus, has asked Moscow to stop. Last week or so, he warned he would shoot them down. One went down last night. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That means Lukashenko is getting a little pissed at the Russians, which is funny. Thank you, Maddie, for subscribing. Syndicate says Mark Rutte, who's the NATO Secretary General, did in fact visit Trump. Yeah, that's a good idea, though. I mean, he should. And it's good for Trump because Trump's an idiot, but you never know. You know, thank you, Hedge, for the gift. He may be able to grow. You know, it's possible. You know, the hamster. I mean, I'm not convinced that Trump's going to grow, learning things from meeting with people, but there's always a possibility. Is that it? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm wondering is whether the Belarusians are saying, we don't know where the hell this drone's coming from. We've got to shoot it down. What if it's NATO? What if it's, you know, whoever, or Ukraine, right? He's not normally at odds with Putin. That's the thing. No, great, full Fred. Not really. He's kind of Putin's puppet in many ways. That's why it's a little weird if he's shooting down Russian drones, unless he just literally doesn't know. You know, he doesn't know where it's coming from, and they're worried, like I said, it could be NATO attacking or something else. That's my guess. Oh, I'm going to yawn at you guys because my dog wakes me up every freaking morning now. I swear to God. She wakes me up like 45 minutes early because she has to pee, and I'm like, I'm going to kill you. Because what do you do when the dog's got to pee? They got to pee, you know what I mean? But I'm like, Jesus Christ. Is Sasha working for the Russians? I think so, because she wakes me up every morning. She's trying to wear me down, and she is wearing me down. What else, guys? What else? Secret agent Sasha. I know. Secret agent dog. Secret agent dog. Oh, man. So today's a holiday, or today, this is a holiday week in America. We've got Thanksgiving is on Thursday, so I will not be doing a show on Thursday. It's, well, kind of an apocryphal story, Thanksgiving, but it's about like the first winter the original settlers coming to America from England survived with the help of the Native Americans, and they sat down and had dinner with the Native Americans, and we're all very happy, and then we killed them all. But nonetheless, it's a big holiday. It's a big family holiday here. What's hanging behind me? If you mean that, that's a huge Christmas ornament. If you mean that I got for cheap at a store years ago. There's 3 of them actually. You'd have to kind of, wait, where's the, yeah, if I start to move, there you go. You can see that there's 3. But they're neat because they're like 3 feet tall. I mean, they're actually between 3 and 4 feet tall. They're really cool. So yeah, but I got them like super sale after Christmas a couple of years, or maybe 10 years ago. I kid you not, $15 or $20 for those, each of them. So I was like, yes. So because I have 12-foot ceilings, there are these great big, like 3, big things I have up there. They look very cool. I will not go to Chicago for Thanksgiving. Nope. I'm going to have Thanksgiving at a neighbor's house. They're not too heavy because they're hollow. They're kind of plasticky. I'm in Washington, D.C. Great. What else, guys? Christmas, I'll go back to Chicago for the week. Your 90-pound dog asks you to lift her up every morning. Birthday dinner? Not really. I mean, we were gonna plan to go out for dinner at some point for my birthday, maybe this weekend. I don't think I have plans for birthday dinner itself. I've never done big things on my birthday. Not that I don't want to, but it's just never sort of worked out that way. No, Mom's house is still kind of sitting. Actually, we still wanted to do a little more work on it because basically it's a long story, but you know, now is not the time that you try to sell homes. So we may casually show it to people, but we're probably not going to put it on the market officially for a while. But we'll show it to people. But we're not expecting the market to really move until, January, February. So I saw you say that, Jen, but I mean, that's not really new necessarily. Ukraine's capital is under attack by drones from all directions. Okay. I mean, that's bad, but not new. That's okay. I mean, Jen wanted to make sure we saw the news. It's okay, Blue Ariel. She wanted to make sure we saw the news. So it's okay. I mean, I will look on my Twitter Ukraine feed because I get a lot of good updates here. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of panic about the attack on Kyiv, which is good, on sort of defense TikTok. So that's good at least. The Russians are attacking, but this is not new. So no. Yeah. Wow. So many respect. Wow. Yeah. Hold on. Sending a tweet to somebody. Anyway, nothing there. All right. Yep. Just sorry. Oops. Go back to my. There you are. There you are. What else, guys? I would love to go visit Ukraine after all this is over. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't so far, kind of more because of my dog than anything. But, did you see the EU leaders talk in solidarity with Ukraine, or was quite the speech the sanctions keep? Yes, there was some, it was either just a get together or a soon get together of like Italy, France, Britain, like a bunch of the European leaders about what happens next. There wasn't a lot of news surrounding it, so I didn't really mention it. But there's some get together that either just happened or is happening soon of the European leaders to kind of figure out what they do to keep aid going to Ukraine if the Americans just sort of walk away under Trump. They going to send troops or not? What we think is going on with the troop thing, the story in Le Monde was very unclear. It sounds like the Brits and the French are preparing for a worst case scenario under which they would send troops to Ukraine if the Russians start to make significant advances, but I mean huge advances, breaking through the lines, heading towards Kyiv, heading towards Odessa, you know what I mean, possibly just making a horrific advance, threatening Ukraine itself, you know, the state, then the Brits and the French may come in and say enough. So that is my guess as to what's happening. Oh God, what do you think will happen after the war is over? Will America rebuild Ukraine? The world will rebuild Ukraine. U.S. too. We were talking with Vlad about it this weekend on the show for our monthly subscribers. If Ukraine is smart, Ukraine will try to buy off Donald Trump. They will say, Mr. Trump, if you keep supporting us, we will give you access to our minerals and our lithium and our oil and gas and blah, blah, blah. Maybe part ownership, right? I mean, you got to buy the guy. This is how Trump works. You buy him off. But I think they're going to have to buy him off. And that would also help in terms of, you know, U.S. rebuilding. But I think U.S. and Europe will all be helping rebuild Ukraine afterwards. You know, I know Ukraine give them a hotel. That may not be enough, but that's a good start. They need to like rename the country Trump, and then maybe Trump will save it. Like, you know, looking here. Yulia had a video out on the damage from one of the missiles. What you mean attacks? You mean the missiles coming right now? Yeah, like I said, there isn't. The interesting thing is that I'm just not seeing a lot of chatter on my Twitter, defense Twitter, about people talking about the attack on Kyiv, which makes me think hopefully it's not as bad. Thank you, Camacho, for the gift. When do you think the war will end? We don't know, Lucas. I mean, Trump is going to pull the rug out from under the Ukrainians in principle. You know? Oh, she's on now? Okay. I saw her on before I came on. I didn't realize she was still on. I mean, you know, Trump could so screw the Ukrainians that the Russians... This is the problem. Trump cuts off all aid to Ukraine. The Russians start to just blitzkrieg across Ukraine. They threaten to take the capital, and the country will fall. And the Brits, the French, and the Poles intervene, along with the Czech government, along with troops from the Baltic states, intervene to occupy half of Ukraine on behalf of the Ukrainian government, so the Russians can't go any further without going to war with all those countries. That's what Trump is setting us up for. That is what is so dangerous, is because of what Trump is doing, because of the appeasement of Putin, he's putting us in a position where I could envisage scenarios where there is a world war. That's what's so scary. I did not see, Jorge, the Ukrainians took out another S-400. That's really good. When did that happen? The S-400 is an anti-aircraft, anti-missile system, very expensive, like Russian top-of-the-line system. They've only got so many of them. Thank Adventures. And the cost is somewhere like $500 million to $1 billion or more for these systems. I mean, it's super expensive. In Kursk, oh, wow. That's good. That's really good. Wow. Good. Good. With ATACMs, though, that's funny. So they use the American weapons to do it? S-500? I didn't hear. Is there an S-500? Blue Ariel is asking if the S-500 ever became operational. Was that the new one they were working on that they put near the bridge, near the the Crimean Bridge? The Kerch Bridge? I'm trying to remember. Was that the S-500? But we weren't quite sure if it was working or not. And they only had one of them, remember? Yep, still no news from Kyiv here. Okay. Again, I believe, Yulia, the good news is hopefully that if there's not a lot of tweets about an attack on Kyiv, then hopefully it's not that much worse than usual. Syndicate says multiple impacts in Kyiv, power outage in Ternopil following kamikaze drone impacts. No missiles reported so far. Okay, so that's good. Around 45 Garin 2 still in the air. The Garin 2s are the Iranian kamikaze drones. Shaheeds are the Garin. I believe Shaheeds are Garins. Garin is the Russian word. I'm forgetting what it means. Somebody remind me. I Googled it at some point. but I believe Garin is the Russian name for the Shahed drones. Which, by the way, the next auction, I totally forgot. I've got a piece of one of the Shahed drones, which are the Iranian drones. So we're going to be auctioning that off too. That will make another cool Christmas gift. It is indeed the same. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. What else, guys? Deep. Looking here. Yeah, no other. Looking here. No, I'm not seeing any other news here. Okay, no other big news here. Do you think he'll use another ICBM? Yeah, maybe. Putin's job is to freak you out. That's it. I've always said Putin is going to do everything short of going to nuclear war to convince you he's going to a nuclear war. Right? That Putin is going to do everything except launch nukes to convince you he's going to launch nukes. And I said that months ago. And what he did this was the same thing. He used a rocket that can fire nuclear weapons. Literally, I was like, why do I care? Like, guess what else can fire nuclear weapons? Artillery pieces. Okay, so am I now scared that Putin has artillery pieces in Ukraine? Like, okay, not sure why I care, but okay, right? I mean, they can fire nukes. Yeah, and these rockets can fire nukes. I don't care. So what? You know? No, he's just. It's psychological. It's psychological terrorism, basically, is all he's doing. You know? They tried to launch a second one and it blew up on the launch pad. That would be funny if that's true. That'd be really funny. Darkseid, is that true? That'd be really funny. I think Iran is going to join Russia on the front lines. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians tried to get the Iranians. If I were Iran, I'd be a little bit worried about going to war with Israel right now. So I'm not sure I'd want to stretch my military by sending troops to Ukraine. Like, I'm not so sure about that. You know? So, you know. But who knows? They've been trying to get everybody. I mean, the Russians, obviously. They've got the Houthi rebels. And what did they do? Was the story, I did it. I copied it this weekend. The story about the Houthis, I believe, was the same story again, where they kidnapped these guys. So they worked with the government, but they convinced a bunch of Yemenis to go to Russia, again, for jobs. And then when they went to Russia, they kidnapped them. Again, only in Russia do they do this. They've done this to Indians, to Yemenis, to Somalis, Nepalese. I'm forgetting some of the other North Africans they did this to as well. They trick people. The Russian military tricks foreigners into coming to Russia either for tourism or for jobs. And then they kidnap them and say, you're going to jail for 10 years or you can join the military. And they join the military because they don't know what the fuck to do. And then these poor guys are on the front lines and they send them to die on the front line. It's horrific. Again, only Russia. You cannot imagine a developed country doing something like this. You know, just horrible, absolutely horrible. Yeah, well, good luck with that, Mike. Mike says he just saw breaking news on German TV that Trump just posted that the first thing he'll do on January 20th is raise tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. Well, got news for you. We are going to have massive inflation in America. Get ready for it. You voted for price increases. Congratulations. Americans who claimed that inflation was still a problem when inflation was gone because it was a Democrat, voted for a guy who promised to raise prices. And that's what he's going to do. Congratulations. And once Trump kicks out all the Mexicans, I got news for you what's happening next. Then the prices of all the companies you hire and all the products are going to go through the roof because we use a lot of illegal labor in this country. I know nobody likes it, but guess what? At restaurants, you better believe how many of the people washing the dishes are not here legally. If you've got to pay them $20 an hour instead of $10 an hour, it's costing your meal a hell of a lot more. And again, everyone likes to say, oh, I don't care. The hell you don't care. You just voted for Trump in an election because you care about prices. and he's going to raise prices. The amount of goods that Mexico, Canada, and China is like most of our imports. I mean, I can't even think of how much. Oh yeah, farms, food. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, too bad. People voted for him. Good luck. You know, I got enough money. What are you going to do? You know, I mean, all the blue collar people voted for him. All the minorities, like, okay, Sasha, stop. You know, oh well, out of luck. You know, do I think NATO troops will get involved soon? Not necessarily. I think the Brits and the French may get involved, and the Poles, among others. Sasha, I don't know what you want, but let me finish here. I'm not done yet. No, she's right behind me. Hello. She's right behind. I was wondering, I'm hearing like, she's right behind me, standing behind my chair, wanting attention. All right. Sorry. I'm like I'm leaning over to pet the dog as we talk. I know. Hi. Oh, now you're licking my hand. That's very sweet. That's very sweet. No, I mean, like I am as, conservative on immigration as you get. I don't want people coming illegally into my country. And if you're here illegally, you can leave as far as I'm concerned. But you don't do that if it's going to kill your own economy. If your economy so relies on illegal labor, you don't say, well, that's just too bad. Hire Americans. I got news for you. When Americans require 2 times to 3 times the salary of somebody who's illegal, because now the price is going to go up that much for the things you buy. And I guarantee you, no American who says, I don't care, I want them gone, is going to be happy about the prices of the grocery store going up, the prices of clothing going up. They're not going to be happy at all. And that's what's going to happen next. So was it Walmart already warned? Walmart already warned they may have to raise prices if Trump does what he wants to do. And Walmart's like the biggest, chain in America. It's like, oh well. Trump's not going to do anything to stop the conflict. Chris, Cliff, Trump is going to cut off aid to you. Now, the one thing with Trump, the one wild card here is, now Trump's a liar, okay? So be aware that it doesn't matter what Trump said he's going to do. He's a liar. And he's not very bright. So Trump doesn't have a plan to end the war in Ukraine. He's lying, and he couldn't come up with a plan if life depended on it. What Trump so far said he's going to do is cut off aid to Ukraine and tell the Ukrainians and the Russians, you better start negotiating now or else. And if Ukraine doesn't negotiate, he said if Ukraine doesn't negotiate, he's cutting off aid. And if Russia doesn't negotiate, he's going to give more aid to Ukraine. In a million years, I don't see Trump giving more aid to Ukraine. I think he's just going to tell the Ukrainians to suck it, give up some land, and the Russians may say yes, and then Ukraine's in trouble. The best thing that happens to Ukraine is to some degree, is the Russians going, no, Donald, we're going to keep fighting. And then Trump has to decide whether he looks stupid or whether he accepts the fact that, that he got made a fool of and keeps helping Ukraine. Now, the other thing is, and I've been seeing more discussion of this, is that Ukraine is turning into Trump's Afghanistan, right? Biden inherited Afghanistan from Trump. Biden inherited the withdrawal agreement that Trump negotiated, and it blew up in his face. We withdrew and the Taliban took over. Trump is doing the exact same thing in Ukraine. Trump's plan is to remove all U.S. aid, and the Russians take over the country. That is literally Afghanistan all over again. We're going to look like idiots. And Trump is going to have a massive foreign policy failure as the first thing he does coming into office. I really do. I think this comparison to Afghanistan, they ought to be doing TV ads. They ought to be doing everything about this Afghanistan comparison, because that may get Trump. That may bother Trump. Thank you, Diana, for the gift. Oh, that's good. Mike says the Brits recently supplied Ukraine with dozens more Storm Shadow cruise missiles, according to Bloomberg. That's good. I didn't know there were dozens more to give them. That's good. Derek asked about Social Security. Is Social Security going to be gone? Maybe. Trump is talking about getting rid of taxes on Social Security, which some of the taxes on Social Security are taxes for Social Security. So when Trump says he's going to get rid of taxes on Social Security, he's literally taking money away from Social Security. Social Security is already in trouble. So, Yeah. It's what's really scary is Republicans want to cut Social Security. Republicans want to increase the age of Social Security. They already did it once to us. They want to do it again. Social Security is the federal retirement benefits we get. It's nothing like you guys get in Europe, but it's something. And it's actually very important to a lot of people. It's important to me. Yeah, let's see. I mean, let's see what happens. I don't know. It's certainly a risk, yes, because Republicans have talked about killing Social Security before, or cutting it, or privatizing it, or some bullshit. So who knows? The odds of Russia striking the UK, 0, literally 0. You have nuclear missiles, the UK. If you didn't, maybe a little more of a concern. You've got nuclear weapons. Russia's not touching you. Because if Russia were to attack you, you would attack them back. By the way, you're also a member of NATO. If the Russians attack you, they've now gone to war with 32 NATO countries. Even if Trump doesn't help, and it would be very hard for Trump. With the UK, it would be hard for Trump not to help because the Americans still like the Brits. So the Americans would not, even with Trump, even the Republicans with Trump would not be happy if the Russians attacked the Brits. That's the first thing. Second of all the NATO countries would go to war. So all the other NATO allies would go to war with Russia. Third, you've got nuclear weapons. They wouldn't dare touch you with a nuclear weapon because you would literally eliminate Moscow and St. Petersburg, where all of Russia's population lives. So I would have a 0% chance of worrying about Russia attacking the UK. They love to talk about it because that's what they do. They talk. People who can't do talk. So yeah, 0 chance. It's scary because it's a scary conversation. It's not scary because it's actually going to happen. Like I said, the Russians will not touch the UK. And again, think about Russia. We talked about this. The Russians say what they can't do. The Russians love to talk about what they can't do and what they're afraid to do. That's why we're going to nuke you. We're going to send rockets, because they're terrified to send rockets and they know they can't send rockets because we would fight them back. It's not going to happen. Yeah. But the Brits, not at all. You're lucky you got nuclear weapons. And you got NATO, but you got nuclear weapons. They're not going to touch you. Yeah, no. That's okay. I mean, I understand why you'd be worried, but no way. Class action against the government for Social Security money? I have no idea on sort of how the law works for that. Poke the bear. The bear is old. Lost a lot of its winter fat and yeah, the bear is old and lying on the ground going, I'm going to get you. The bear is drunk and lying on the ground. So I'm not too worried about the bear. The map is right here. I did not kind of use the map today. We've got the map just for fun. Nothing to really show. Yeah, exactly. The bear is the toothless one. Yeah, the bear is the toothless bear that dances in a tutu in a little ballet outfit at the circus. That's who the bear is. Yeah. Baltic states, same thing. The Baltic states, here's the thing. So the Baltic states are, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. They border Russia. Russia had occupied them for many years as part of the Soviet Union. They're free again now. They border Russia, more or less. And the concern is the Russians want them back because the Russians, Putin especially, but the Russians don't like the fact that they're not the Soviet Union anymore. When they were the Soviet Union, everyone was terrified of them. People are not terrified. I'm not terrified of them. When they were the Soviet Union, they were scary. They're not scary now. A little pathetic now, but they're not scary now. But they therefore still want to get the old band back together. They want to get the countries back together that they used to hold hostage, like the Ukrainians, like the Baltic, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. All these countries they held hostage as part of the Soviet Union. They occupied, and they want to get them back. The problem for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia is you border Russia. I mean, Lithuania kind of does, right? You border Russia. And the Russians could invade. Now, the Russians invade, and they're going to war with NATO, including the U.S., possibly, because we don't trust Trump anymore. But you'd be going to war with all the rest of NATO. The rest of NATO can kick Russia's ass. But you're right there. You will get severely damaged if the Russians invade, right? That's what I'm saying, like how war is not pretty. A war would be very bad with Russia. We would win, but it would be very bad. So that's sort of the situation. But the question becomes, why would Russia invade Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, knowing NATO would respond? And this is where you get into that weird analysis of what if the Russians went in because they wanted to take a little bit of land? Like, for example, Lithuania, they wanted to grab this bit of land connecting the Russian province of Kaliningrad with Belarus. And they did a blitzkrieg, grabbed the land, and then said, okay, we're done. No more. End of war. And NATO, if you want, you can attack, but then we're going to use nuclear weapons. And the same bullshit that Russia does now, where they sit there and they try to psych us out by telling us they're going to use nukes. So that's sort of the weird thing is what will NATO do? I think, honestly, NATO goes to war with Russia because clearly the Baltic states aren't going to not go to war with Russia. And if the Baltic states go to war, Poland's going to war. And if Poland goes to war, the Brits are going to war. And probably the Finns, the Norwegians, and the Swedes will go to war, right? I mean, you're going to get a lot. The Czech government will go to war. You're going to get a lot of people going to war. And once that happens, American Civil War, I doubt it, Derek. I really doubt it. I think, honestly, most of the people calling for civil war weigh like 300 pounds. So I'm not too worried about it. Also, that's another situation which is kind of funny because the people calling for civil war are like the biggest welfare queens of the United States. All the states calling for civil war, like they want to break away from America. They take so much money from the federal government. Sasha, come on. My dog has been really thirsty lately. Really? This is the last bit of water you get. I'm in the middle of talking. Seriously, enough. All right, that's enough. Yeah, all these like Republican states that are like, oh, we're going to break away. They take so much money from the federal government, and you can Google it yourself, and it shows you like the top 10 or 15 states that take the most money from the federal government are Republican states. They take a ton more money than they give in taxes. So if they break away, they're screwed because basically they spend money they don't have. Their budgets in their states are financed by Democratic states. So all of us get taxed as Americans. The money goes to the federal government, and then the federal government gives a lot of the money back to the states. The Republican states take more money than they get in taxes. The Democratic states give more money in taxes to Washington than they get back from Washington. So not that anybody wants a civil war, but if there ever were a civil war, the Republican states would be in so much trouble because they'd have no money. So, I mean, but again, it's like the tariff stuff and everything else. They don't care. It's like sucking up to the Russians. They don't care about the impact of their actions because sadly, it's a little cultish as far as the analysis that goes on there, So anyway, I'm going to wrap up, guys. Austin, we did start the show talking about that, about France and the UK. What we think might be going on is the Brits and the French are worried about what's going on in Ukraine. They're worried about the possibility of Trump cutting off all aid. They're worried about the Brits possibly, not the Brits, but the Russians possibly having like a blitzkrieg where they just throw so many men at the Ukrainians. And at the same time that Trump has cut off the Ukrainians with weapons and everything, that the Russians start to make significant advances, maybe even advance towards Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, right? Which would be really bad because then the whole country would fall. And that's when the British and French troops might arrive and say, that's it. And I wonder whether the Poles and the Czech government and others might join them and say, that's it. At the invitation of the Ukrainian government, we're coming in, we're occupying half the country. And if you decide to attack Kyiv and the rest of the country, you're going to have to kill us first. And if you do, it's World War III. And the US may not have the balls for it. The Poles do, and the Brits do. And the French apparently do now too, which is good. What if Biden gives nukes to Ukraine? That would be funny. I don't think that's actually, that would be funny. Biden would never do it. But it would be, it would be pretty funny. But Biden would never do it. So anyway. Well, Cliff, I'll do a final question from Cliff. Why hasn't the arrival of North Korean troops been a red line for NATO? A red line is whatever you want it to be, right? Has anything been a red line for NATO? What's the best place to support the show? I'd say probably like Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, probably. Okay, I'll play with you. Just wait. She is in a mood tonight. Probably Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, which you can find in the link in my profile on TikTok. Click the link and you can scroll and find them, because most of them, actually, PayPal takes 3%. The other ones don't take any. So certainly becoming a subscriber, giving gifts is great, but the gifts, TikTok takes half of it. Subscriber, TikTok takes half of it. Or no, subscriber, TikTok takes, I think, 60%. So the best place would be going, I think, to my link and finding something else. Venmo and Cash App are the best, probably. But I appreciate you asking. Yeah, I mean, again, guys, it's a dangerous time we live in. But all the bullshit coming out of the Russians is meant to scare you, and it's bullshit. 70, it's a horrific amount, John. Yeah, it's a horrific amount. Yeah. So, all right, guys, I'm going to sign off. It's been an hour. Oh, God, it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I didn't realize it had been that long. We were going slow earlier, and then we just kind of kept going. So thanks for joining us. I don't think we had as many trolls tonight, did we? I think because tonight I kept the show about Ukraine and didn't have a lot of Trump stuff. We did. I'm gonna have to do more Trump stuff next time, or at least put Trump in the title so we get more of the trolls next time. So here, we'll do last little look at the Christmas tree. That's the Christmas tree for the TikTokers. That's the tree we put up on Saturday. I did a little Christmas tree lighting for you all, which was fun. We had about 2 hours of the lighting, which was fun. Thank you, Cracker, for the gifts. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. I do this show Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, US. So I'll be back again tomorrow. And do go check out our Discord. We got a lot of really cool stuff, including a Russian drone from Ukraine knocked out of the sky by Ukrainian troops using a fishing net. This is an actual Russian kamikaze drone from Ukraine. We are auctioning it off to benefit Ukraine. The Ukrainians will get half the money. I get the other half to support the show because I do this full time, and lots of other really cool stuff as well. Well, go big, Dark Side. It's cool. It is. It's really cool. Like, I think this stuff, but of course I like this stuff. I'm the kind of guy who looks at this stuff and goes, Christmas gift. Like, who's ever gonna get you up, or who's ever gonna like get somebody a Russian drone as a Christmas gift? You know what I mean? To me, somebody at first when I mentioned it said Christmas gift, and I'm like, for me, oh hell yeah. And I know my nephew's the same way like me. He sees this stuff and goes, oh yeah, like he would love this stuff. But a lot of people don't. It's fine. But we've got a lot of cool stuff over at Discord, so go check it out. Find the link in my bio, and get one for your mom. A Russian drone for your mom. Would she find that cool? That's very funny. All right. I will talk to you guys later. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Catherine, for the gift. Have a good night. Oh, she teaches Russian. Oh, that's interesting. Discord's always a problem on the phone, Christina. Last little thing. On the phone, what you've got to do is go to my profile on TikTok. This is for the TikTok. YouTubers should be fine. TikTokers, if you're using your phone, go to my profile on TikTok. Look for the Linktree link. Click it. It then brings up a page of all of my links. The number one or number two thing is Discord. I think number 2 now. Rather than just clicking the Discord link, you've got to click and hold. You know how on an iPhone, for example, you can hold it down? You've got to hold the link down, and it will eventually open up a little thing that says accept invite. Then you click accept invite, and you should get the Discord okay. But that typically is the problem with pulling it up on your phone. So you hold it and it says it can't accept. Maybe try it on a computer. Maybe pull up TikTok on your computer, tiktok.com/my name or whatever it is, and try it that way. Try it on a computer. That's my hope, is that that's the problem, because this stuff doesn't always work. It's very annoying that like tech online doesn't always work. But try it. Thank you for trying though. But yeah. Open Discord after that error message. Open it how, Cynthia? Sorry, I'll stay on for one quick second to see what you mean. What do you mean open it? How do you open Discord, though, is the point, after the error message? How does she get there? You know what I mean? Like, physically, what does she do to open Discord? The Discord app? Oh, I see what you mean. So, Christina, what she's saying is you need to download the Discord app as well. It's a free app. Create an account or whatever. And Cynthia's saying sometimes after the error message, if you go to the Discord app, it'll actually show that you did join already. It gives you an error, but the error was wrong. It actually did accept the invite. Okay, give it a try. If it's still screwing up tomorrow, let me know, and maybe we can have some of the mods help you, Syndicate or one of the other mods. That's our tech guru. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night. Thank you. Again, if you can help out for the gifts for the Ukrainian kids, Secret Santa for Ukraine. Yes, secretsantaforukraine.com. Donate, and we're going to go buy gifts. Syndicate and his wife, Michaela, are going to go buy gifts for Ukrainian kids that they're donating to a charity in Amsterdam that is then sending them all to Ukraine. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Thank you.